The buzz on the spin. I actually have this next part on video if you'd like. It sold very well on pay-per-view. Surely that was stolen a great deal. Of course it was. But that's because it was bait for the cybersecurity of the station to jump on the hackers and grab information. Which resulted in counter-hacking, and from my understanding there was less a digital fight and more a digital war. Really? What was that like? Observer Wu asks and Janet shrugs. I'm afraid I have no idea. It happened and was over with before I could even tell what was going on. The only reason I know about it at all is because a few fighters in that war come here for meals every now and again, and when I asked my son confirmed it. Janet explains. Are such things regular? Observer Wu asks. Oh yes. I'm telling you about an exceptional day, but his ordinary ones are full of what others would consider exceptional events. He's just had his standards adjusted to such a degree he can't even recognize normal anymore. To him, a drag-out war between criminal hackers and pirate data security is mildly interesting office gossip as he sorts his paperwork. Observer Wu lets out an amused snigger at that. Distinctly remembering a rash of drug crime that near the end of it had him more or less completely ignoring the sounds of people coming down from bad trips in the drunk tank. It is amazing what one can get used to. Oh, I know, the screen over. There will have the fight play out. Janet says and then pauses as it doesn't miraculously happen. She looks right up at the ceiling and frowns. I said the screen over, there will have the fight play out. The screen flickers and begins playing. Voice activated? Observer Wu asks. I'm still working out the kinks. Janet admits. Trust me, I know what that looks like. Wu assures her as the screen requests what fight, and Janet sighs before using her communicator to access it and start sifting through the menus and memory. Here we go. Janet says as the screen starts broadcasting the cheer of a crowd as Hoagie and Demon rush each other. Standing upright, Hoagie would barely come nose to nipple with Demon, but both men are built out of steel cables wrapped around a skeleton with some skin on. Anything that fights either man is in for a bad time. Even each other. Demon's opening move is the kind of punch that looks like it's going to reduce someone's spine to powder, but Hoagie is as agile as they come and retaliates by driving his left knee into Demon's face with a jump that looks like he intended to take flight with it. The problem with hitting someone like Demon is that even when you get him, he's still gotten you. The man is made of sterner stuff than most metals. He plants his hands on Demon's upper back to turn his now off-balance leap into a roll, but Demon is moving and trying to grab him. The momentum, turning and shifting, sends Hoagie for a tumble. He turns into a roll followed by a leap to dodge Demon's stomp, which makes the arena floor jump. He darts behind the larger man who's turning, but Hoagie's foot lashes out and hooks heat back of Demon's knee. Strength is one thing, physical mechanics are another, and Demon loses his powerful footing. Then starts falling. A sacrifice fall as his arm comes out and traps Hoagie. He dodges the first grab from the nearer arm, but the second from the further arm gets his shoulder and starts to haul him around to slam him. Hoagie's movement looks like a thrash. It's not though. It's a perfectly well-aimed kick to Demon's chin as his hands work at Demon's fingers. The kick connects and Demon's fingers loosen just enough that rather than being slammed into the arena floor, Hoagie instead is sent rolling. Then he's up again. Demon's already recovered and risen up like a mountain. Hoagie starts pacing to the side and Demon starts matching it, both men circling as they look for weakness, or more likely trying to wait out the other while their tensions are spiked so high. As both men are clearly eager to fight, it's actually a surprise that Hoagie charges Demon first, who snaps out with his hand to try and catch him, but Hoagie uses it to shift all his momentum to carry him up to a massive double kick to the very center of Demon's chest, strong enough to send him staggering backwards. Hoagie's landing is good, but he can't recover fast enough to avoid the returning Demon, who sweeps him up, grabs him by an ankle and then turns so fast both men blur before letting go and sending Hoagie flying at an arena wall. His impact against it looks like it should have hurt, but he seems completely unfazed as he slides down the wall and then counter-charges Demon's pursuing charge. As they come closer to each other, Hoagie goes low and Demon tries to match him, but the smaller man slips down and grabs Demon's left leg before suddenly changing his direction to race to the side. Unbalancing the larger man, and he hits the arena floor hard, But Demon is far from out as his legs lock around Hoagie and begin to squeeze. It lasts only a few moments before Hoagie manages to twist and then slip out. But his scramble away for some distance isn't fast enough as Demon has had the chance to use that time to clearly plan out his next move. And he pounces on Hoagie and pins him. A few moments pass and Hoagie gives a little sign before being released. Another round? Demon asks and Hoagie considers before both of them turn to the camera. Did they have another round? Observer Wu asks. No, but there are dozens upon dozens of fights between the men which many people appreciated. Janet explains as a menu of dozens of different fights come up, including a large amount of the Gathara men whose paint ended up stuck with sand. A lot of them found names that way. I see. How long did it take Captain Spinefin to leave her chair? 1 week. A full week. Stasis fields were used to stop the food from rotting. But yes, it took her a solid week. Humans have a disproportionately large appetite for our size, so although a fair amount was eaten in the feast, she still had to eat nearly a quarter ton of whale all by herself. To say nothing of the fact that she was confined to that one chair and had to have her leavings cleaned away with hoses. To really drive home the public humiliation. Observe Wu says. Yes, but before that happened, and after the tournament was over, something else happened. Hoagie clapped loudly as the last of the prizes was handed out and there were cheers all around him. Now ladies and gents, we've had our feast, we've had our fun, but do remember, for some it's not done. There is still dozens of tons of food left to eat. And I'm afraid that it all must be eaten here. So from this moment forward the feast is no longer a prize but a punishment. The punishment of Quasar here. While the food is now open to all, it's all technically hers. And she's not leaving till it's done. So anyone that wants to help her, the polite thing to do is ask her permission. It is her food after all. There's a round of laughter as the Sauron woman glares at him. She tries to wiggle out again but gets nowhere and there's nothing for her tail to lash out at. Oh, stop being so pissy, you literally brought this upon yourself. And don't worry, you're not paying a single bent tritite for this. I'm funding it myself, out of my pocket. You lose only one thing when you decide to do something so pointless and petty to damage this station. Dignity. If I pay for the damages, will you let me go? Quasar pleads. They're already paid for. And I'm willing to pay it twice to get this point across. Hoagie says with a smile. Then things get quiet except for a single point of applause. Swaying with her movements and with a smirk on her face, Station Master Minacy approaches Hoagie slowly applauding and smiling as she does so. Her head tentacles are out and controlling the cameras, lights and everything that can be electronically controlled in the area. Very good, Mr. Eastman. Very, very good. You've passed the final test. Ah. I was wondering why you just threw me at this problem despite it not being my problem. I'm afraid you have a lot more problems coming up. You're getting a promotion, you're not losing any other duties or responsibilities, but you're getting a lot more work. I'm already vetting seconds and thirds in command for myself. Am I going to need more? Possibly. Because you're my second now, and when my heiress arrives you will be hers. Understand? Yes. But hopefully she understands that I'm thoroughly claimed, right? The berserkers aren't the sharing type, and I'm not going to even think about trying to change that. I know. And she already knows it herself, but I need you to come with me. There's a lot more for you to learn. Alright, but I seriously need to get at least a left and right hand to help me delegate. Hoagie mutters. Does he? Observer Wu asks. He's finishing the testing process. But he's actually got a pair of the Gathara signing up. Apparently they're physically identical, but it takes a fair amount of effort to see it. Janet says with a highly amused smirk. And what's so funny? Observer Wu asks. Well, for starters they've been debating and taken names that translate to left and right in different languages. Secondly, they've ordered custom-sized cloaking clothing that phases out with them. Well, modified ones. Their first attempt resulted in underwear that was more invisible than they were, which was apparently quite interesting when they were flashing every woman who could see in the spectrums they couldn't vanish in, but their outfits could. Oh dear. Needless to say, they got some admirers that day. And what species can see like that? Earthany, the moth people? Well, the ones with the extra antenna. I don't know the right name for that type. There are so many kinds of alien I can't keep track half the time. I understand that. Thankfully everyone's getting the same thing happening to them. So they understand. And usually don't take offense. Although things did get awkward for a time. And the story there is. Oh, nothing grand. I was serving chicken fingers to a small party of bird women, all different types, and I wasn't fully sure how to explain what chicken was. Turns out it was completely fine no matter how awkward I made it. I wouldn't put much stock into the idea of one type of being eating others of its type. I think the only real limit is people eating other people. Observer Wu states. I gathered as much myself, but it did take a bit. Janet says. So yes, that was my son's long, unusual and difficult day. As you can imagine, he has a rather high standard for what difficult and complicated is. And his normal days? Well, yesterday he kicked down the door of a drug den that was cutting their supply with dangerous mixes that resulted in 4 deaths, broke up a child trafficking ring that got too close to the station, and helped track down a glitch in the automated shipping drones going over the station to keep food and medical deliveries on time. Is that all? Observer Wu asks. He also got into a long, lengthy debate with some of the hotel owners of Sector 5 over the price of more luxury foods and the cost of the raw ingredients. Apparently that was the really challenging part of his day. You can't just shoot someone for being annoying and persistent in negotiations. Granted, they went a bit above annoying when they sent someone to negotiate with Emmy over trying to get him to back off. At which point he dropped the hammer on them and did end up killing one of them. And how did that end? Well, there's been a clear change in leadership in the hotels there, and the leader in question is someone who defers fairly hard to my son. That's why he got the call for the hostage situation. He's still technically in control over there. Pretty much. I'm not even certain what the proper word to describe your son is at this point. He's an enforcer, a legal authority, a foreign power, and yet a police force, and far more all at once. Observer Wu says, and Janet nods. He's a talented boy. That, if nothing else, must be said.